You can't make this stuff up. And you have an activist teachers union member basically saying college isn't early enough. I know they're young and still somewhat impressionable at 18 years old, but why don't we try to get them at 14 years old? Give us 4 more years. That sounds a lot like that quote that's attributed to Lenin, who said, give us the child for 4 years and they'll forever be Bolsheviks. It is the same kind of communist ideology that the kids belong to the government. And a lot of people who get into the government school system who don't have their own kids see that they can change the outlook of this country by molding the minds of other people's children. They're using that school system to churn out Democrat voters. And it gets worse than that. They're not just an arm of the Democrat Party. These teachers unions are a far left appendage of the Democrat Party. They're trying to pull the party even further to the left. They're at these socialism conferences. And look what just happened in New York City, where you have the socialist running for mayor just got endorsed by the United Federation of Teachers.
Corey DeAngelis calls himself the school choice evangelist, and you'll hear why. But you'll also hear in this episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast, which you should subscribe to, by the way. Just click that subscribe button real quick. Just hit it. Doesn't cost you a thing. And that way you'll have every episode show up for you. You're going to hear from the teachers unions heads. There are 2 of them, the American Federation for Teachers and the National Education Association. You need to understand who's trying to control public education. You need to understand that school choice is a good thing. It is not a threat to public education. If anything, it will make public education better via competition. Corey DeAngelis is the perfect guest to talk about this. He joins us next. Corey, it's good to see you again. Welcome back. We're now in the wake of the big, beautiful bill passing. And it's got some implications for school choice, some tax credits if you want to donate to certain scholarships, etc. You will hear the public school teachers union scream out, and we'll play some of that for you in a minute. But what does this bill do for school choice as you see it?
Yes, this is a fantastic win in the big, beautiful bill to expand school choice to all 50 states if they so choose to do so. It allows governors the opportunity to opt in or out of benefiting from the private school choice initiative. It's a federal tax credit. It allows individual families to donate to scholarship granting organizations, and families can also go to those scholarship granting organizations to get the funding to spend on private school, homeschool curriculum, other approved education expenses. And so it really supercharges the school choice revolution that's already happening in red states. We've had 17 red states pass universal school choice in the past 4 years alone. And so this would allow families to stack scholarships on top of what they would already receive in states like my home state of Texas, Florida, Arizona. They already have these forms of scholarship programs. And look, if you're in a blue state, your governor has the power to allow you to benefit too. And so, a state like Vermont, they have a Republican governor. So maybe this brings school choice into a new state. And then in other states where you have Democrat control, maybe the governors will do the right thing and be on the right side of history.
That is a nice thought, and we all can dream, can't we? And lest people be confused. There are certainly good schools in America. They exist. Good public schools exist. But there are so many, not only poor schools that kids are trapped in, like just failing schools, but there is also activism among faculty. And if you didn't believe that, we want to play this clip for you where this young woman thinks, we could radicalize kids even younger than we are now. Let's roll the tape.
I left higher education and work in a high school now. So everyone who raised your hand and said that you got radicalized in college, imagine if you got radicalized 4 years earlier. Okay?
And for people who just heard that but didn't see it, there's a guy sitting on the dais behind the speaker, and he's like doing a fist pump, like, yeah, let's radicalize them earlier. They are admitting to being radicalized and to this notion that they like to radicalize kids. What in the hell, Corey? Some of the stories that we tell on this podcast could keep you awake at night, but here's what you can do to help. It's called Sleep Cream. CREME.com. It's an all-natural CBD-based topical that you put right on your skin at bedtime. I usually put it on the insides of my forearms, maybe the bottoms of my feet, and they smell fantastic. While the lavender is my favorite, they have a new rose-scented one out that is Sleep Cream Rose. It's awesome. But here's the best part. It works. And if it doesn't work for you, just let them know and they'll give you your money back within the first 30 days. That's a guarantee. That's a guarantee. Sleep Cream, CREME.com. Use the code HOMERUN at checkout to get free standard shipping on your first order. That's the code HOMERUN at checkout for free standard shipping on your first order. If you want to sleep better, use what I use. That is Sleep Cream. Sleep, CREME.com, sleepcream.com. They are admitting to being radicalized and to this notion that they like to radicalize kids. What in the hell, Corey?
Yeah, Vodi Bakum said it best. We cannot continue to send our children to Caesar for their education and be surprised when they come home as Romans. This clip was actually from the Socialism 2025 conference. You can't make this stuff up. And you have an activist teachers union member basically saying college isn't early enough. I know they're young and still somewhat impressionable at 18 years old, but why don't we try to get them at 14 years old? Give us 4 more years. That sounds a lot like that quote that's attributed to Lenin, who said, give us the child for 4 years and they'll forever be Bolsheviks. It is the same kind of communist ideology that the kids belong to the government. And a lot of people who get into the government school system who don't have their own kids see that they can change the outlook of this country by molding the minds of other people's children. They're using that school system to churn out Democrat voters. And it gets worse than that. They're not just an arm of the Democrat Party. These teachers unions are a far left appendage of the Democrat Party. They're trying to pull the party even further to the left. They're at these socialism conferences. And look what just happened in New York City, where you have the socialist running for mayor just got endorsed by the United Federation of Teachers. Yes, that used to be, that is an affiliate of Randy Weingarten's teachers union, the American Federation of Teachers. And Randy used to be the head of the UFT before she was the leader of the AFT. So they're all intertwined. And at the end of the day, there's an incestuous relationship between the teachers unions, the Democrat Party, and we just found out that Randy Weingarten left the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, after being there for 23 years. And a lot of people didn't even know this. The New York Times reports it as if everybody that this was well known, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And they kept it a secret because the mainstream media is another arm of that Democrat Party. They're all rowing in the same direction.
And she left the Democrat National Committee because it wasn't left enough for her, right? I mean,
exactly. She had a position on their influential rules committee since 2009. It wasn't really reported earlier this year when the new DNC chair, Ken Martin, took office. He removed Randy Weingarten from that committee. I think she wasn't very happy about that. There was a disagreement between Ken Martin and Randy Weingarten about David Hogg's proposal to primary Democrats who weren't sufficiently progressive. Randy Weingarten was on David Hogg's side. She wanted to pull the party further to the left. Ken Martin said, I don't think we should kind of go nuclear on people within our party and take out incumbents who are already, elected. We also have Becky Pringle. She's the head of the NEA. She is also an at-large member of the DNC. Still
an at-large member of the DNC. For people who aren't familiar with Becky Pringle, and believe me, I've tried to expose my viewers to her as you have, Corey. Here's a clip of Becky Pringle. We've got a couple of these just to kind of show you the personality, this cult of personality that has become the NEA. Go ahead and roll it, Misty.
Depending on us, rise up, NEA, hold on, don't let go of anyone's hand.
I'm not sure what all the yelling accomplishments and all the rise up and stay happy and everyone deserves everything. And I mean, who is this Rebecca Pringle, really?
She's the head of the NEA, the largest teachers union in the country. She makes about $500,000 a year. She and her union lobbied the CDC during COVID to make it more difficult to reopen schools. And guess what? This union, the Screaming Lunatic, which, by the way, that's free advertising for school choice and homeschooling. Do you want that raging lunatic to be teaching your kids? No, heck no. We don't want to send our children to these people who are just going to indoctrinate them to be little socialist foot soldiers in their war on American culture. And so this was actually at their leadership summit. Becky Pringle was basically telling the other leaders of the union, this is how you have to act. And you basically have the inmates running the asylum at this point. But Becky Pringle, she's saying rise up. What is she talking about? She certainly wasn't talking about the test scores rising up. They don't care about academics.
No.
The scores have been flat, going down in some places over time. They're talking about more money. They want the funding to rise up in the government school system, even though they already spend about $20,000 per student per year in government schools. That's about 60% higher than average private school tuition. And for what? The outcomes don't get any better. But I think we're looking at the wrong metrics. They're focused on ideological conformity, gender ideology, divisive concepts like critical race theory. They're not focused on math, reading, and writing. They don't care about that at all. They see the school system as a way to shape the direction of this country towards their socialist worldview. And once we start to understand that, I think more teachers, would leave the union and defund them, and more families would vote with their feet using school choice programs to send their kids elsewhere and defund the union indirectly that way.
And that's why some of these scholarships are so valuable and so important. And I know there are a lot of private organizations that fund these scholarships for young people K through 12 to move outside of failing schools and go other places to help revitalize homeschooling or vitalize homeschooling and the like. This is a hugely important issue when you look at all of the activism you see across the country, and it's all young and in very many cases affluent white women who seem to be making up the bulk of these groups. It's very curious. Here's one more classic recently from Becky Pringle. Roll it.
NEA, remember who you are and hold your head high. You are brave. You are powerful. You are the NEA. Hold your head high. Hold your head high. NEA. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Hold your head high.
I'm not even sure what the hell is going on there. I mean, she's trying to motivate, but it just seems like she believes the louder she gets and the more that she screams and the words that she says, like freedom, hold your head high,
Yes,
that's what's going to make people stand up and applaud.
I mean, it's like Kamala Harris trying to figure out what to say. It's a word salad, right? She has no idea what she's talking about. She's just going to repeat things and yell as loud as possible. And the worst part about this is, Michelle, it's a cult. You see them all clapping, they're standing, they're excited. And so it would be one thing. I mean, if she was saying that to a room of normal people, they would be looking around, looking at each other like, this is awkward. Why is this happening? Get me out of here. But no, they were all encouraging Becky Pringle with her unhinged rant. And she was basically trying to pull a Dwight Schrute in some of these videos. She was hitting the table in some of them. And I just got to say, from that annual convention that happened last week from the NEA, they also had their Teacher of the Year chosen. And I exposed on X recently that Teacher of the Year let the mask slip during her speech, where she said that her job had always been, quote unquote, deeply political. So look, we all knew it, but they said it for the world to see, that they see teaching as a political act as opposed to being about education. So it all starts to make a lot more sense when you see how they view the school system. And why do you think Mamdani won the Democrat primary in New York City? This guy's an out-and-out socialist. He won the Democrat primary. Maybe because 90% of kids are going to government-run institutions run by these lunatic unions who teach kids all day that socialism, real socialism, has never been tried. If it had, it would be a success, not a failure, and that big government's the solution to all their problems. This is why we need school choice and homeschooling more than anything else. Yeah, the decision should be in the hands of the parent, but even if you don't have kids yourself, this is an important battle for you, because we're talking about the future of our country here.
Right. You can have complaints with the country in which you live, but changing the form of government. I've seen a meme recently, Corey, where you've got this person standing in front of an outlet on the wall, and he's got a big fork in his hands, and he's saying, "Oh, but socialism just hasn't been done the right way yet," as he prepares to stick the fork into the outlet again. And it's first of all, I don't think it's being taught, and it should be. Socialism, communism, all Marxism, fascism, people need to understand what that actually means before they just go and yell it. I mean, we've seen man on the street interviews of people saying Donald Trump's a fascist. Okay, what is fascism? Well, and they have no idea what they're saying. They're just repeating stuff and then by rote sort of absorbing it and I guess believing it. Speaking of one of those protests, we had the No King's Day, and I guess there was a No King's Day too on July 4th. I didn't see any sign of it, but on the first No King's Day, our friend Randi Weingarten, who is another, you've mentioned her here today, and I'll tell you something, as the daughter of a public school teacher who really tried to teach her kids math and to teach her kids Spanish, and actually succeeded because this was, 50 years ago, but she'd be rolling in her grave, I think, and probably is. This is Randi Weingarten. Corey just mentioned it. She left the DNC because it wasn't progressive enough. Listen to her on No King's Day. Go ahead and roll it.
You are the community to this president's chaos. And together, we build a future of opportunity and justice for all. Hope over fear, aspiration over anger, the promise of America for each and every American. That is what we are fighting for today. So, I say...
again, the bouncing, the theatrics, I get it. She's in front of a crowd, but the constant yelling, it's this idea that if I just say it loudly enough but put my fists in the air, then people will believe me. But I don't even really know what she's trying to say. Hope over fear. She's not giving me any hope, Corey.
I mean, yeah, does she have a little trampoline behind the podium there? She's just always bouncing up and down. They should give her a mic. Was her mic not working? She's always screaming. Yeah. And there was great symbolism in that shot. If you didn't see it, listeners, there was a pitchfork in the audience showing right in front of Randi Weingarten. It's another cult, and this is free advertising for homeschooling. Get your kids away from these people. And why were the unions involved with No King's Day to begin with? This started when there was the Los Angeles riots over the enforcement of immigration policies, which most of Americans do support Trump's deportation efforts. But why was the union involved with this in the first place? I think because they have a vested interest in keeping more illegal immigrants, because that means more butts in seats. If you have more enrollment in the public schools, they're funded based on student count. They get more funding whether the student is there legally or illegally. And so maybe they're protecting their bottom line, or maybe it's just because the teachers unions, because they're so buddy with the Democrats, they have Trump derangement syndrome, so they have to oppose him every step of the way. But look, I mean, teachers in this union, if you see this person and you feel like this person does not represent your values, and I know there's a lot of great teachers out there who are normal people, you can opt out of the union and it can't be held against you. It can't be used as a condition of employment. We have a Supreme Court case back in 2018 called the Janus decision. It ruled in all 50 states nationwide now, you can't be penalized for opting out of your union dues. Yeah. And you might say, well, I need the liability insurance. Well, there are private providers of this insurance. If you don't want to funnel your money to Democrat causes or to abortion rallies or to this No Kings, whatever thing that was recently with Randi Weingarten jumping up and down on the podium, Well, you can opt out. You can go to places like the American Association of Educators, get that private liability insurance to protect yourself, and you'll have more money in your pocket. And guess what? You'll be defunding these radicals and their leftist agenda. And maybe the unions will do a better job. Maybe they'll say, hey, we need to get out of this world of politics and stick to what we're supposed to be focused on. Maybe we'll actually help the teachers. Maybe we'll funnel money into the classroom instead of towards political causes and administrative bloat. I mean, you look at Becky Pringle's union a couple of years ago, the latest data on this showed that the NEA funneled over $60 million to political causes.
$60 million.
And that's your dues. Your dues are going to these rallies, all of the jumping up and down, the screaming at their leadership summits. If you don't like that stuff, you don't need to fund it. And so parents aren't the only ones with options when you have school choice. Teachers have a choice, even in blue states like California and New York right now. And you just got to know there are alternatives that cost less than what you're already paying. You just need to look it up. Say, how do I opt out of my union on Google? AI is so great right now. They'll take you to plenty of resources to be able to do that. I think the Freedom Foundation has a lot of resources on how to opt out of your union and to protect yourself.
There are a lot of lies that are told about school choice. What in your mind is the biggest one?
Yeah, the main one you'll hear in the Capitol or by the deranged people at the NEA and the AFT is they'll say that school choice defunds public schools or steals money from the public schools. Wait, hold up. The money doesn't belong to the government schools in the first place. Education funding is supposed to be meant for educating children, not for propping up and protecting a particular institution. We should fund the student, not the system. And by the way, why would giving families a choice defund the public schools if you're doing a good job? If you're confident in your product, you wouldn't be making this argument. You wouldn't be screeching about the big, beautiful bill, including school choice. You wouldn't be crying about low-income kids finally getting a shot, finally getting a better opportunity to go to a private school or a charter school or a homeschool. The teachers union monopoly fights to protect the status quo at all costs because they want to lock low-income kids in their failing government schools that they don't even send their own kids to. You look at Chicago Teachers Union, their head is Stacey Davis Gates, which she just went viral recently for saying that she thinks that they own your kids. She actually said that, and I'm not taking it out of context.
No, you're not. That's a very easy to find piece of tape as well. I almost pulled it for this, but she said something to the effect, if they think that, that we are trying to own their kids. We do. Yes, we are. We do. It's insane.
And she sends her own kid. She called school choice racist a couple years ago, and we just found out she sends her kid to a Catholic school, which costs half the amount what they spend in the government schools in Chicago. School choice for me, but not for thee.
Right. And Mamdani, who has gotten the endorsement of the NEA or whatever, the AFT, the UFT, it also grew up going to private schools. So
he went to a private school that has a tuition for kindergartners of north of $66,000 a year. And so he's a staunch opponent of charter schools. ABC News has been reported of saying that. It's no surprise. He's a socialist. He wants the government to control everything, but he's a champagne socialist. He benefited from private education. He's pulling up the ladder from behind himself and trying to lock other people's kids in failure factories that spend about $40,000 per year per student in New York City right now. And you have only 13% of Black kids are proficient in math in New York City.
It's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. And for people who think, oh, why would they want to do this to kids? Well, the more you dumb down the population, the more that elites like Mamdani are able to control them. And that's what this is about. And don't fool yourself and start following the money. And here in Minnesota, when they say, let's fully fund education, that seems to be limitless. What does fully fund mean? Where's the thermometer with the mark of what they need to get to? There is none. Fully fund just means we're going to keep taxing you and taxing you and taxing you. When there's any kind of funding for government schools, as Corey properly calls them, it's your money. It's taxpayer dollars. This money doesn't come out of nowhere, folks. It comes out of your paychecks. So please pay attention. He's called the school choice evangelist for a reason. Last thing for you, Corey, because you have this beautiful child now, this young little girl. Since you've become a father, how much more important has this issue become for you?
Yeah, we already decided before having children that we're going to homeschool our child, Angelina. She's almost a year old now. And in a way, we're already homeschooling her. Parents are the first and foremost educators for their children. How do they
Absolutely.
learn things before kindergarten? How do they learn before 5 years old? We don't need the government to do so. We're better than the people we know our kids more. We know their needs. We care about them more than distant bureaucrats in offices hundreds of miles away. We should be the ones to determine their education. So it has made the issue much more personal. It has changed from being a conversation about, libertarian principles and limited government and having more competition, and more. It's moved from the theoretical to the practical. And look, when you have these people on the other side who truly believe that the kids belong to them, it becomes very personal. That's my child. It's not your child. You're not going to subvert the will of parents. You're not going to wedge yourself between my wife and I and our beautiful daughter. We are going to be the ones to direct her education. And it's almost a spiritual battle. The left certainly sees it as one. They want to lay claim to your children, but we're not going to let that happen.
I sure as hell am not, and I know you're not, and I'm happy to join forces with you anytime, Corey. He is Corey DeAngelis. I end every podcast saying, be brave, do good. He does that on a daily basis, and I would encourage people to be brave about this issue. Question everything that unions tell you, these teachers' unions. Question what's going on, because it's radical. You just heard it. They want to radicalize your children. Their word, not mine. Corey, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hey, you can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.